everyone, and welcome to the Biomed Badass channel, where we discuss all things career related for those working in academia and beyond. And today I am delighted to invite Ransom to talk to us on the channel for a coffee chat and to really discuss his experience of working as a doctor in Nigeria, but also starting a medical writing career on the side and growing that and growing his brand. So really excited to learn more about his journey, and he's here to discuss it with us today, which is great. So Ransom, maybe we can start with a little bit of an icebreaker. So when you're doing your medical writing, what's your drink of choice? Mine is always a cup of tea, but how about you?
So I love cold water or soft drinks. You know, it keeps me refreshed, and I love it. Yeah.
I think it's a reflection of where we live. You're in Nigeria, lovely, warm, hot climate. You want a nice pool to keep you refreshed. I'm in cold, dark, Northern Europe, and I need a hot drink to keep me warm. So it's definitely a reflection of our geographies, I think.
Yeah, it's different, man.
For those in the audience who don't yet know a lot about you, could you tell us a little bit about your background and also talk us about what sparked your interests in medical writing?
First and first, I'm a medical radiographer based in, Nigeria, and I graduated a few months ago. I'm looking forward to, digressing further in the field and also becoming a well-known personality in radiography, and not just in my country but globally. Yeah, what really sparked my interest in medical writing is because I wanted to make people to understand, a global public people to understand the complexities in the medical terms. Because of especially patients and the general public, because people are really kind of afraid about medical information. So I wanted to use my writing, my storytelling writing, to kind of bridge that gap. People being scared of reading medical information because they don't understand it. Because when we're writing, we have two belief systems. If you're writing for people that have a healthcare background, it's quite different from writing for people that have a general public kind of backgrounds. It could be people in tech, could be people in engineering, could be people doing business that is not in the medical field. So how they go understand the complexities in medicine. So that's how I use my writings to bridge those medical jargons, to make it easily accessible to me.
Excellent. Yeah. So, well, first of all, congratulations on your recent graduation. That's fantastic. And you've got a lot of very ambitious goals ahead of you in terms of, your radiography, where you want to get to, but also sparked your interest in medical writing, because it sounds to me as if the writing aspect has come to you as a little bit of a passion. Would that be right to say?
Yeah, sure, definitely. Also the courses I did in radiography school also sparked my interest. It made the writing more easier for me because I did a whole lot of medical courses. A lot of courses that are very intensive. That helped me to tackle any kind of project to have. If a client want me to work in a project, I could tackle it because of my background first and my experiences. I have over 5 years of experience in writing, so it also propels me to attain more heights, to learn, keep learning, because there are a lot of amazing technologies, advances in writing. So I always try to keep myself updated and also have a varieties of knowledge about all the projects in medical writing, depending on the kind of projects I come across with. So yeah, I'm always prepared. Always prepared. And also have a YouTube channel where I invite other medical writers and other medical professionals to talk about, things about medical writing and things about the medical personalities. So yeah, just a little bit about me.
Yeah, right. Because you've invited me on that YouTube channel, so thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was a year ago, right?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe even a little bit more, but yeah, I follow it. So yeah, it's a fantastic resource. And I will link it also in the notes here for this video so people can access it. Can you tell me then, so you've built, obviously, your medical writing career, you're based in Nigeria. So you've built this career outside of what I would call the typical kind of medical communications hotspots, which would be like the UK, probably US and India, you could put into those. So it's interesting for me because I work with a lot of people. I have a global audience of people who may not be in those geographies that are hotspots for medical writing employers. So could you just tell us a little bit more about how you've managed to carve your career in that space, and perhaps a little bit, maybe if you could also touch on any kind of mindset shifts or strategic decisions that have helped you in pushing your business forward, getting it growing?
So first and first, I leaned on consistency. I was really consistent, not just consistent, I was very patient, because a lot of medical writers of method, once they just a few months down the line, they didn't get what they wanted, to just backslide or give up or something. I don't give up. Giving up is never an option for me. Even though nobody's is watching me, even though nobody cares, that's even gives me the momentum to keep going. So I lean on consistency, and I was very strategic in building my online presence because of my personal brand. I was very very strategic, and I was willing to start. Even though I didn't have the proper necessity to begin as well. What I want to say is, especially my YouTube. I didn't on my YouTube. I don't have all the necessary equipment to produce content. I don't have a laptop. I don't have the necessary camera. I just had my phone. Well, that's what helped me to start up. I used what I have. I didn't wait to have the perfect moment to start my work, building my portfolio, or writing, publishing. I started small immediately. The mindset shift that made me to digress further is that my location is never a hindrance for me to succeed. Because being a Nigerian, to be honest, brings a whole lot of restrictions because of things happening in the country, and you try to fight through your way. Already, I'm in a very disadvantaged location, but I don't make myself to be disadvantaged. I make myself to be advantaged in a disadvantaged environment. And I also started, showcasing my work online, because I tell people whenever I get invited and speak in podcasts or my mentorship or my personal brand, I always tell people you have to showcase your work. Showcasing your work brings more opportunities to your doorstep. What that means is, if you're a writer, if you don't showcase your work online or anywhere you are, nobody's gonna know that you're a writer. If you sell perfumes, if you do business and nobody knows about it, nobody knows about it because you don't showcase it. You don't post about it. I try to always showcase my work, and that has brought a lot of opportunities, on my doorstep. I'm really, really grateful for that. So I would say try to showcase your work if you're looking forward to building a career in medical writing. Start building your portfolio early, even though you don't have the necessary materials to grow as a medical writer. Just start small. Start with what you have. At the long run, it's gonna produce a very good result. When I started, nobody was watching me. Nobody even cared about what I did. But right now, a lot of people abroad internationally watch my content, watch my videos, watch what I do.
There were so many golden nuggets there. I don't know if you saw that. I was making notes for myself because I've got a notebook, a journal of things I keep, great ideas. So your ideas are in there. So you said a lot of really important things there about consistency and persistence, and that piece where even if you felt nobody was watching or taking any notice of what you were doing, you kept going. And I think a lot of people at that moment, they give up. I'm reading a great book at the minute, and I would really recommend it. It's called The Slight Edge, and it talks about this, about how small things that seem unnoticeable, that you repeat day in, day out, and you spoke about that consistency, start to add up, and that's how you build success from that. Not overnight sensation, suddenly you go viral, X, Y, and Z. Those situations are very unusual, or winning a lottery or something. More success is generated by small incremental steps that may even at the beginning seem something you don't notice, but because you're persistent and you grow that. So I think that's fantastic. And then I just want to touch on something else you said about your situation in Nigeria, about how you started without a laptop, But you didn't allow your situation to disadvantage you. And I think that's fantastic, because what you're speaking to there is resourcefulness rather than resources. So you are relying on your resourcefulness, and that is a recipe for success.
Sure. Because nobody's going to do that for you. I tell people you have to push yourself. Even though you study medicine, even though you're a medical writer, you have to push yourself to study. You have to push yourself to write because nobody's going to do that for you.
Yeah, 100%. And then the final key point you made was around, obviously showcasing yourself. And I noticed what you've done over the last few years. And, we've been in contact for a few years via LinkedIn. That's where, I built my network as well in the industry. And you have grown that. So, showing up on a platform like that consistently, being persistent, being resourceful, those are the things that I think are key to driving your success. So thank you so much for sharing those, because they're, as I said, they were golden nuggets, real gems. I just want to move on a little bit to talk about your experience of working as a medical writer in Nigeria. And for other writers who might find themselves in Africa, I'd love to learn a little bit more about the opportunities that are there in terms of, we're thinking about local opportunities, international freelance work, and if it's that, is it agencies, pharma, clinics? What sort of work are African writers usually able to access, and what opportunities are open to people living in those geographies?
There are a lot of freelancing agencies, organizations, that are out there, looking forward to working remotely with writers, African writers in particular. But you can't just find those opportunities anyhow. There are some platforms you have to inculcate yourself in. There are a lot of opportunities on Upwork. Upwork was one of my first platform. I earned my first ever client as a medical writer. So there are a lot of platforms out there that you can sign up to, build your personal brand, to meet such opportunities. Like I said, Upwork is amazing. Fiverr is an amazing place. I would also say LinkedIn. Yeah, LinkedIn is a good one where you get to see a lot of organizations, looking forward to working with you as a writer. And you need to, how would they have to hire you? You have to like showcase what you do. They can't just hire you if you don't know what you're doing. So if you sign up all this platform, build a personal brand there, it brings more opportunities for you. You have to connect with all those people on those platforms. I also say Instagram, Twitter, which is an X now. These are platforms you need to, be on, and whichever one that works for you, you have to hold it handy. So there are platforms, like I said, that will help you, but you need to firstly, you can't just sign up and start reaching out to those people. No, you have to build a momentum first. You have to build a platform first for them to rely on. Some of my clients I work with, they don't even ask about my CV or my writing portfolio on Medium. Once they go through, I think LinkedIn is now the modern CV right now. They see your writing. They saw one of the write-ups I published, a medical doctor in Tunisia. He has a newsletter with over 4,000 subscribers. I had to write on things related to radiology, making radiology more accessible to under-resourced centers in Africa in particular. So how did I get that opportunity was how I built my personal brand, my relationship, on how I interrogate with my connections. I don't like being salesy. Africans, we are very quick to making conclusions. If you see a potential client, you just pitch. Say, hey, I'm a writer. Look at my portfolio. Look at my this. No, this is not how to do things. You have to build a relationship with the person that you seem to be like a targeted client. Build a relationship with the person. Let the person understand your work ethics. Let them understand your rights and privacies, and then you can then pitch.
You spoke to something there that's true in any kind of business or freelance or any sort of selling that's involved. People buy from people they know, like, and trust, right? So you spoke to that building the relationship, and then going in and talking around, what it is you can offer and do. And I think that's very important. And then I don't know how you found with your business, but with mine, over time, word of mouth, things happen and travel, and people talk about what it is, you offer as a service provider, and work tends to come that way. So this has been really fantastic, Ransom. Thank you so much for sharing. But as we start to wrap up, I'd love to understand what your top tips are for anybody who's kind of looking to maybe break in or even grow their medical writing career as a freelancer. And that could be whether they're based in Africa or indeed anywhere in the world. What would be your top tips?
When I started out 2 years ago, nobody was watching my video. Not even my country, Nigeria, was watching my video. Talk less of people in the UK, the US, or Australia watching my video. But I was very consistent. I knew what I wanted, right? So, and also last thing is, once you do all those things, being consistent, being patient, showcasing your work online publicly, building relationship, building a portfolio on early enough, that will bring more opportunities. So if you want to work with people, international brands or anybody, you have to do all those things that I told you. But these are simple terminologies. You need to adhere as a writer for you to attain to opportunities. Like I told you, nobody's going to recommend you if they don't know what you offer. So you have to tell us what you offer.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And, good reiteration there. Some of the things you touched on earlier around, that persistence piece, and just getting started, right? Not waiting for the perfect time, just getting going. Because if you never get going, waiting, and what are you waiting for, really? The best time to get started was probably 10 years ago, but the second best time is now, right? Today.
There are people out there that need your kind of work, that need your talent. So you have to showcase it to attract those people. There are people that need what you offer. So you just have to start now, please. You just have to start. Thank you.
That's a great message. Also, something you touched on there as well is you don't want to be the best kept secret, do you? And I think a lot of people initially, maybe like a little bit of imposter syndrome. If I go out there and I'm saying, this is what I offer, this is what I do, and start speaking about it publicly on social media, for some people that's a massive step, isn't it? But unless you take that step, you're never going to be able to establish your business or grow it as a freelancer or as a consultant.
Like I know of a medical doctor in the UK that started up creating an app, that tracks women's periods. She also posted it online. I'm working on this, I'm working on that. And she has, amassed a lot of interviews. She's applied on BBC Radio and other amazing podcasts, So, that also equates to you as you're listening. Please take it serious, because don't look at the short-term goals. Look at the long-term goals, because if you're looking at the short-term goal, you can easily get burned down. So when you're doing what you're doing, fall in love with it and just have a hope that it's going to pay off very soon. So yeah, this is a little nugget to have for you.
And some great examples there of people who've obviously done well through, embracing that whole, I don't want to say sales, but it is sales. It's a marketing piece, isn't it? And I think a lot of us, especially if we've come from a scientific and medical background, we think about, our practice and what we do as the key elements, and we should focus on that. But actually, any business owner needs to also consider the business element of what they do. It's just as important. Of course, offering fantastic services and work as a writer is an absolute must, but equally, you're not going to be able to do that unless you're drumming up business and unless you're talking about yourself. So as I said before, you don't want to be the world's best kept secret. You need to get out there, and the way to do that is social media. Anyway, Ransom, thank you so much for sharing that, all your wisdom and insights that you've gathered over the last couple of years as you've been establishing yourself as a writer alongside your medical studies. And many, many congratulations on all your achievements. And we look forward to watching this space and seeing as you grow in the years to come. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me, Vicky. It's an honor.